Greetings, I'm Stuart Firestein, and I'm very happy to be able to send this greeting to you today at your event featuring Ignorance and Science. I'm also happy to say that just yesterday I received the Portuguese translation of Ignorance, which is beautifully produced, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the publishers for doing such a marvelous job on this. Now, I use the word ignorance in the title of the book, of course, to be intentionally provocative. But I don't mean any of the bad connotations that are often associated with ignorance, especially in the current social and political climate, such as laziness, stupidity, or a willful indifference to fact. I mean rather the mystery of what is unknown and the ability to ask good questions. Distinguishing low-quality ignorance from this sort of high-quality ignorance is one of the great challenges of science. Now today you're about to be treated to some very high quality ignorance, and I think you'll see the difference right away and find it quite engaging. Because in science, it's the questions that motivate us to get to the lab early and stay there late. Now you may have learned in school that science was mostly about facts, and we certainly do have a lot of facts. But the real issue is what we do with those facts, not how many of them we have. What do we do with all those facts? What do we do with all that knowledge? Well, we try to ask better questions, more sophisticated questions, deeper questions, because the best answer is always the one that asks the most beautiful question. This attitude, I think, was best expressed by Marie Curie in a letter to her brother upon receiving her second graduate degree, in which she says, "One never notices what has been done. One can only see what remains to be done." And I think it's that what remains to be done, which is, of course, the essence of science. Now, I'd like to introduce you to a somewhat strange term coined by the poet John Keats, and that is negative capability, which he defined as when a man is capable of being in uncertainties, doubts, and mysteries without any irritable reaching after fact and reason. He considered this to be the ideal creative state for the literary mind, and I would say it's also true for the scientific mind, because the idea here is to have patience with uncertainty and doubt and mystery, because these will lead you to unimagined and new discoveries. Now, developing our negative capability is not taught in science courses in schools, but it's a critical ability to learn to understand science. And the good news is you don't have to have any particular kind of expertise to learn how to have good negative capability. Now, I hope you'll also talk about failure, because that's also an important part of science. And the reason is that failure gives you access to the deepest sort of ignorance, not just the unknown, but the unknown, the stuff you didn't even know you didn't know. So when you do an experiment to find something out that you didn't know, and it doesn't work, now you realize that, oh, there was something I didn't know that I didn't even know. Well, you get what I mean. Enrico Fermi, by legend, used to tell his students that if they did an experiment and it proved the hypothesis, they'd made a measurement. But if they did an experiment and it failed to prove the hypothesis, they'd made a discovery. Now, we should be clear that both measurement and discovery are important in science, because both enable us to ask and formulate ever better questions. Now, you're fortunate today to have two very excellent scientists with you who don't know very much between them, and who will tell you about all the amazing things that mystify them and propel their incredibly interesting and important work. Because what I've learned is that the best thing you can ask a scientist is what they would like to know, why they've chosen this question and not that one, why they think it's so important to know this thing they don't know, what they didn't know before and do know now, what they thought they knew before but are not so sure of any longer. So one has to enjoy the uncertainty of ignorance, to think of it as an adventure, a game whose outcome is not predictable but will remain infinitely interesting. Science is dynamic, not set in stone, nor in textbooks. In science, revision, I like to say, is a victory. But remember that unsettled science is not unsound science. In fact, it's the best science. Today, we know more than people have ever known before. But even more importantly, we also know that we know less than ever before. Aproveita a sua ignorância e obrigado.